Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're venturing kind of into this hidden world right beneath our feet.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff down there.
We'll be exploring what you might call symbiotic intelligence, these really intricate networks, cooperative partnerships in nature. And they hold some, well, surprisingly relevant lessons for us.
Exactly. For this deep dive, we're drawing from, various research papers, ecological studies you shared, really focusing on the relationships between fungal networks, plant
Right.
roots, and also those tiny organisms living inside plants. It's a look at how cooperation, how interconnectedness really drives these natural systems.
So our mission here is to unearth the key insights from these natural alliances. We're asking, what can the Wood Wide Web, these unseen soil partnerships, what can they actually teach us about, say, decentralized intelligence or sharing resources, or even just resilience?
Good questions. Where should we start?
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with something that's really captured people's imagination, these mycorrhizal networks, the Wood Wide Web, as it's often called.
Ah, yes, the Wood Wide Web. It's a great term, and it really highlights this foundational partnership.
So what exactly is it?
Well, basically, you have these fungi colonizing plant roots. They form this massive underground network connecting different plants, sometimes even different species.
Huh.
Dr. Suzanne Samar's work was huge here. She really brought it into the mainstream, popularized that term. The key takeaway is how nature uses these complex sharing networks to boost resilience for the whole ecosystem.
And it sounds like a pretty neat exchange, right? The fungi do something, the trees do something else.
It is. The fungi, they send out these microscopic threads, hyphae, into the soil.
Hmm.
They're incredibly good at scavenging for nutrients.
Like what kind of nutrients?
Oh, essential stuff. Phosphorus, nitrogen, water, even micronutrients that trees find hard to get on their own.
Okay.
And in return, the trees, they're the ones doing photosynthesis, making
Right,
sugars.
the energy factories.
Exactly. They share some of those carbon-rich sugars back with the fungi. It's a vital trade, especially in soils where nutrients are scarce. The network basically extends the reach of the tree roots enormously.
So it's not just one tree and its fungi, it's connecting multiple trees.
Yes, that's the key. Resources can move through the network between different plants. It's not just individuals acting alone.
That leads to this idea of communication, doesn't it? It's not just trading goods, it's like they're sending messages.
It really seems that way. There's evidence that trees under attack, maybe from insects,
Right.
can release chemical signals through this fungal network. These signals seem to warn neighboring trees.
Warn them. How?
Well, the neighbors might then ramp up their own defenses, like producing more tannins, which taste bad to bugs.
A forest-wide alert system.
Sort of. And some newer studies are even looking into electrochemical impulses, tiny electrical signals potentially moving through the network.
Wow, like a biological internet.
Kind of, yeah. Suggests potentially faster communication is possible. Still early days on some of that research, though.
And then there's the concept of mother trees. These big old trees acting as hubs.
Yeah, that's another fascinating part of Dr. Samard's work. These older, larger trees often seem to be central nodes in the network.
And they're helping out the younger ones.
It appears so. They can shuttle resources, extra carbon, nutrients through the network to nearby seedlings, often their own offspring. This gives the little trees a much better shot at survival and growth.
So the whole network, with these hubs, makes the forest more resilient overall.
Definitely. By distributing resources and maybe information, it helps the entire forest adapt to stress, recover from disturbances like drought or disease. It's a powerful case for cooperation, improving collective well-being.
It really shifts how you think about a forest, doesn't it? Not just individual trees competing.
Absolutely.
Which makes you think about human impacts, like clear cutting. That must just devastate these networks.
Oh, profoundly. Practices like clear cutting, heavy tilling, they sever these connections. They disrupt the soil structure that supports the fungi. And yeah, that has major knock-on effects for forest health, biodiversity, nutrient cycling, the works.
Really underlines how important this hidden world is.
It does. And understanding that disruption leads us to think about what makes soil healthy in the first place. Things like glomalin. And if you want to read more on the Wood Wide Web, Dr. Samar's book, Finding the Mother Tree, is excellent.
Right, good recommendation. Okay, so let's dig into that glomalin. You said it's key for soil health. Sounds kind of technical.
It is a bit, but the concept is pretty amazing. Glomalin is this glycoprotein, basically a protein coated in sugars.
Okay.
It's produced by a specific type of fungi, those arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, or AMF. They're super common, really important partners for most plants. A researcher named Sarah Wright discovered it, named it.
And what does it do?
Think of it as nature's superglue for soil. It binds tiny soil particles, sand, silt, clay together into larger clumps we call aggregates.
Okay, so it makes soil lumpy in a good way.
Exactly. Those aggregates create structure. They leave spaces for air, pathways for water to soak in instead of running off. And it makes it easier for roots to grow through. It's fundamental for healthy soil.
But I read it does more than just structure, something about carbon,
Yeah.
climate change.
Yes, that's the really remarkable part. Glomalin is incredibly stable. It doesn't break down easily.
How stable.
Especially when it binds with iron in the soil, it can last for decades, maybe even a century. So it locks up a lot of carbon in the soil, keeping it out of the atmosphere as CO2.
Wow. So healthy soil is literally a carbon sink because of this fungal glue.
A very significant one, yes. Measuring glomalin levels can actually give us an idea of how well different farming or land management practices are doing at sequestering carbon long term. It's a key indicator.
That's incredible. So it's holding carbon, improving structure, anything else.
Well, that improved structure also means the soil holds water better, less runoff, less erosion, and it helps keep nutrients in the soil near the plant roots, potentially reducing how much fertilizer farmers might need. So yeah, lots of glomalin generally means healthy soil and a sign that those beneficial fungi are thriving.
So how do we encourage it if we want more glomalin?
Basically, you want to encourage the fungi that make it. So things like no-till or minimum-till agriculture are great because they don't break up the fungal networks.
Okay.
Using cover crops helps feed the soil microbes, and avoiding fungicides, obviously, is important since you're trying to help fungi grow.
Makes sense. Protect the fungi, get the benefits. Okay, so we've seen cooperation underground between plants via fungi and the fungi building the soil itself. What about inside the plants? You mentioned endophytes.
Ah, yes, endophytes.
Yeah.
Another layer of symbiosis. These are microbes, bacteria, fungi that live inside plant tissues.
Inside, like in the leaves, stems, roots.
Exactly. They live inside the plant for at least part of their life, but, and this is key, they don't cause disease. They're beneficial, or at least neutral, tenants.
So the plant is like a landlord. What do the endophytes get?
Shelter, basically. A protected environment, away from competitors, and a steady supply of nutrients from the plant host. It's a good gig for them.
Okay, fair enough. But what's in it for the plant? Sounds like they must be doing something useful.
Oh, definitely. They pull their weight. Their benefits are really wide-ranging.
Such as?
Well, nutrient acquisition is a big one. Some endophytes can fix nitrogen from the air, turning it into ammonia that the plant can use like built-in fertilizer.
Wow.
Others are great at solubilizing phosphorus that's locked up in the soil, making it available to the plant roots. They can even produce plant hormones.
Hormones. Like growth hormones.
Exactly. Things like auxins, cytokinins, gibberellins. These can stimulate root growth, shoot development, just generally help the plant grow bigger and stronger.
So they're like tiny live-in chemists and fertilizer factories.
That's a good way to put it. And it doesn't stop there. They're also crucial for helping plants deal with stress.
What kind of stress? Drought? Heat?
All of the above. Drought, high salt levels in the soil, heavy metal contamination, extreme temperatures. Endophytes can bolster the plant's tolerance.
How do they do that?
Various ways. They might produce compounds that help the plant manage water balance, like osmolytes,
Whoa.
or they can boost the plant's own antioxidant systems to deal with cellular damage caused by stress.
It's like they provide tiny little stress shields.
You could say that. And they also help with defense against diseases.
Ah, so immunity too.
Yeah. Some produce antimicrobial compounds that directly fight off pathogens. Others just outcompete the bad guys for space and resources inside the plant.
Okay.
And some can trigger something called induced systemic resistance. It's like priming the plant's immune system. It doesn't mean the plant is actively fighting something off right now, but its defenses are on high alert, ready to respond much faster and stronger if a pathogen does show up.
Like a vaccination effect.
Kinda, yeah. It's pretty sophisticated.
This sounds like a really close relationship, evolved over a long time. You mentioned coevolution.
Absolutely. This intimate partnership between plants and their endophytes It's ancient. They've shaped each other's evolution over millions of years.
Hmm.
The specific community of endophytes a plant hosts can really influence how well it grows, how it adapts to its particular environment. And that's why there's so much interest now in using these beneficial endophytes in agriculture
How so?
as bioinoculants.
Hmm.
Basically, coating seeds or treating soil with beneficial endophytes to help crops grow better, maybe use less chemical fertilizer or pesticide, and make them more resilient to climate change impacts like drought.
Right, harnessing nature's own partnerships. Okay, this is fascinating. We've got networks connecting plants, fungi building soil, microbes living inside plants. It leads to this bigger idea.
Hmm.
Can we view these fungal networks, maybe the whole system, as a form of decentralized intelligence?
That's where it gets really thought-provoking, isn't it? These mycelial networks, the Wood Wide Web,
Yeah.
they are vast, interconnected systems, and they definitely show traits you might link to decentralized intelligence.
How do you mean?
Well, think about their scale. They can cover huge areas.
Yeah.
And their responsiveness. They sense things in their environment, light, gravity, chemicals, moisture, maybe even electrical fields.
Right.
And they seem to integrate all that information to decide, where to grow, how to branch, where to send resources.
It does sound a bit like our own networks, like the internet or supply chains.
Mhm.
Are those fair comparisons?
I think there are useful parallels. You see information flow, chemical signals in the fungi, and resource allocation nutrients, water moving through the network.
Okay.
And what's really striking is the resilience. If part of the network gets damaged, it can often reroute things, it adapts, it changes its structure based on needs and conditions. That's a hallmark of robust decentralized systems.
And there's no single boss fungus calling the shots.
Doesn't seem to be. Decision-making, resource flow, it all appears distributed. Local parts responding to local conditions but contributing to the whole network's function. It's quite different from a top-down centralized control system.
Which sounds a bit like things people are exploring now, like blockchain or DAOs.
Exactly. Those human systems are trying to achieve distributed control and coordination, which nature seems to have been doing underground for millions of years.
Now, Dr. Toby Kears's research adds another layer, right? Thinking about it in economic terms, like trade.
Yes, her work is really influential here. She applies economic principles, suggesting these fungal-plant interactions operate a bit like biological markets.
Markets? How?
Well, the idea is fungi act sort of like traders. They might supply more phosphorus, say, to a plant that provides a better return in sugars.
So they can tell which plants are good partners.
The evidence suggests they can, in a way. They seem to allocate resources strategically, maybe even punishing plants that don't provide enough sugar by reducing the nutrient supply.
Huh. So it's not always purely cooperative. There's some quid pro quo, maybe even competition involved.
It certainly adds that dimension. It challenges the purely harmonious view. It suggests there's a negotiation, strategic exchange, maybe even elements of competition shaping these relationships. It's more complex.
So these networks are constantly adapting, self-organizing, trying to get resources efficiently, stay connected, stay resilient.
Precisely. It's a continuous dynamic process.
Hmm.
And Dr. Merlin Sheldrake's book, Entangled Life, does a wonderful job exploring this whole world, the intelligence, the ecological importance, how fungi really challenge our ideas about individuals versus networks.
Right, another good read.
And it's worth mentioning, Dr. Kears co-founded SPEM, the Society for the Protection of Underground Networks, to raise awareness and promote conservation of these vital systems. Other researchers, like Dr. Myron Smith, are using tools from network science, graph theory, modeling, trying to map out and understand the structure, the flows, the trade-offs these networks make between, say, cost, efficiency, and resilience.
It's just such a rich area. Okay, this brings us to some big framing questions then. Based on all this, what can this fungal intelligence teach us about, say, decentralized governance and cooperation in human systems?
Well, I think the first big lesson is that complex, adaptive, resilient systems can function effectively without central control. That's huge.
Right.
It shows that distributing decision-making, relying on local information and interactions can work. This could offer models for all sorts of things: community groups, DAOs, maybe even corporate structures, empowering the nodes, fostering good communication links. That seems key for adaptability.
And what about the cooperation aspect?
The Wood Wide Web is a prime example of cooperation, sharing resources, information leading to collective benefit, enhancing the whole ecosystem survival. It challenges purely competitive models of how things work.
But with that market dynamic caveat from Dr. Kears.
Exactly. Her work reminds us that cooperation in nature isn't necessarily purely altruistic. There's often an element of strategic exchange, maybe even accountability. So, for human decentralized systems, it suggests we might need mechanisms to ensure fairness, manage conflicts, and hold participants accountable, not just assume everyone will cooperate perfectly.
That's a really practical point. Okay, second question. Could we actually model things like regenerative economics or maybe even education using this kind of mycorrhizal logic?
It's a fascinating thought experiment for regenerative economics. Well, look at the fungi. Resource circulation and reciprocity are central. They cycle nutrients, ensuring things go where needed. An economy based on that would prioritize closed loops, minimal waste, reciprocal relationships moving beyond just extraction.
Hmm.
Then there's the value of interconnection. The network's health is linked to the health of all its parts. That translates economically to focusing on the well-being of all stakeholders, employees, communities, the environment, not just profit for a few.
And investing in the foundations.
Yes, investment in the commons. Fungi build soil health, a shared resource. A mycorrhizal economy would similarly value and invest in shared resources, natural capital, social capital, knowledge commons.
And how might this apply to education?
You could think about interconnected learning. Instead of separate subjects, emphasize how knowledge connects, like the network links different plants, maybe more project-based learning spanning disciplines.
Hmm.
Distributed knowledge and mentorship too, like the mother trees supporting seedlings. Could we have more peer-to-peer learning, stronger mentorship structures where knowledge is shared more fluidly, not just top-down?
Like a learning network.
Exactly, and adaptive learning pathways. Fungi grow towards resources, adapting their path. Maybe education could be more flexible, allowing students to follow individualized paths based on interests and needs rather than a single rigid track. Creating supportive learning ecosystems where collaboration and mutual growth are the norm, like that thriving forest floor.
Those are powerful analogies. Okay, last framing question. How might the specific traits of fungal networks like redundancy, reciprocity, interdependence guide how we design human systems?
Taking redundancy first, fungal networks often have multiple pathways. If one breaks, others can compensate. We could build more redundancy into our critical systems, supply chains, communication networks, energy grids to make them less fragile, more resilient to shocks.
Makes sense. What about reciprocity?
That mutual benefit aspect is key to the plant-fungal partnership. Designing systems, business partnerships, community projects, international agreements where all parties genuinely gain value and contribute fairly seems crucial for long-term stability and buy-in. Less exploitation, more mutualism.
Right, and interdependence.
Fungal networks scream interdependence. The health of one part affects the whole. Recognizing this deep interconnectedness in our own world between the economy, society, the environment is critical. Designing policies and systems that acknowledge these links could lead to more sustainable, equitable outcomes. We can't separate environmental health from economic prosperity long-term, for instance.
And the decentralized aspect.
Yes, decentralized control and local adaptation. Fungi adapt to very local soil conditions while being part of a larger network. Allowing local units in human systems, communities, teams, regional offices, the autonomy to respond effectively to their specific contexts while still contributing to the larger goal seems like a powerful principle for effectiveness and resilience.
Wow. This deep dive into the world beneath our feet has definitely turned up some surprising insights. It's really something to think that these ancient natural partnerships might hold such relevant lessons for us today.
It really is. It makes you reconsider how we structure our communities, our economies, how we learn. Maybe looking down can help us figure out how to move forward.
It certainly encourages you to think about the implications, doesn't it? How understanding nature's collaborative, decentralized intelligence might reshape how we approach our own complex challenges.
Absolutely. There's a lot more to explore there, digging into the work of the scientists we mentioned.
Indeed. Well, on that note, something for you, the listener, to mull over. How might a deeper appreciation for nature's interconnected wisdom change how you approach collaboration and system design in your own life or work? Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.